Picture this. It's 1810, and you're standing in what's now Ohio, on a vast plain by the Scioto River. The land is dotted with ancient earthworks, massive mounds built by the Hopewell people centuries ago. One stands out, a perfect circle, 100 feet across, with walls once 20 feet high. European settlers arrive, and instead of bulldozing it, they decide to build a town inside this circle, calling it Circleville. Why? Because it's unlike any other place in America. This isn't just another grid town. It's a bold experiment in urban design, with an octagonal courthouse at the center and streets radiating out like spokes on a wheel. Circleville, Ohio, becomes a one-of-a-kind place, nicknamed Round Town. But here's the twist. By the 1850s, the circle is gone, squared off into a regular grid. Why would a town ditch such a unique layout? What happened to the ancient mounds? And does any trace of that circle remain today? Welcome to the story of Circleville, a tale of ambition, regret, and a lost piece of history. Could a town today pull off a circular design? Stick around to find out. First question. If you could design a town any shape, what would you pick? Let's jump into Circleville's wild beginnings. To get why Circleville was circular, we need to go way back, about 2,000 years. The Hopewell culture, Native Americans who thrived in Ohio from 200 BCE to 500 CE, built incredible earthworks across the region. These weren't just piles of dirt. They were precise, massive structures, some circular, some square, used for ceremonies, burials, or maybe even astronomy. The Circleville earthwork was a stunner, a 1,100-foot diameter circle connected to a 900-foot square, described in a 1772 Boston magazine. Fast forward to the 18th century, the Lenape people, pushed west from Pennsylvania, settled nearby in a village called Maguk, visited by explorer Christopher Gist in 1751. By 1810, European American settlers, moving west after the Revolutionary War, picked this spot for a new town. Why here? The Scioto River made it great for trade, and the earthwork was a ready-made foundation. Daniel Dreisbach, a surveyor, laid out the town to match the circle, with an octagonal courthouse right in the center, where Court and Main Streets cross today. 8 streets fanned out with concentric rings for lots. It was bold, tying the new town to ancient native engineering. But was it practical? Imagine living in a circular town. Would it feel cool or confusing? Let's see how the settlers made it work and why it didn't last. In 1810, Circleville was born as the county seat of Pickaway County, named for the circular earthwork. Early settlers, like George Hitler Sr., no relation to that Hitler, poured in, building homes and shops along the curved streets. The octagonal courthouse smack in the middle was the heart of the town, a symbol of pride. But living in a circular layout wasn't easy. The lots were odd-shaped, like slices of pie, making it tough to build square houses or divide land neatly. Farmers from the countryside tied their horses around the courthouse, attracting hogs and stray animals, turning the center into a muddy mess. People started grumbling. This wasn't the efficient, revenue-generating town they wanted. By the 1830s, residents were fed up. The town was growing, with the Ohio and Erie Canal nearby boosting trade, but the layout felt like a relic. Circleville's population was small, maybe a few hundred, but it was ambitious, with mills, tanneries, and even broom corn production leading the U.S. Still, the circular plan was holding it back. Imagine trying to park a cart in a pie-shaped lot. Frustrating, right? What would you do if your town's design made life harder? Let's dive into the bold move to square the circle. By 1837, Circleville's residents had had enough. They petitioned the Ohio General Assembly to change the town's layout to a standard grid, like most American towns. The Assembly agreed, but there was a catch. All property owners in the circle had to consent. When that stalled, in 1838, they changed the rule. Only owners in each quadrant needed to agree. Enter the Circleville Squaring Company, a group tasked with the massive job of turning a circular town into a square one. They started with the southeast quadrant in March 1838, tearing down buildings, moving others, and grading streets. The northwest followed in September, the northeast in 1849, and the southwest in 1856. This wasn't just a map change. It meant destroying homes, repaving roads, and reshaping lives. Daniel Dreisbach, the same guy who designed the circle, had to oversee its destruction until his death in 1850. By 1856, Circleville was a standard grid, one of America's earliest urban redevelopment projects, but it came at a cost. The Hopewell earthwork was leveled, with only a small raised patch at Pickaway and Franklin Streets left today. Locals later regretted it, saying they lost what made Circleville special. Would you destroy a unique landmark for progress? Let's look at what was lost and who recorded it. The squaring of Circleville didn't just change streets, it erased a 2,000-year-old Native American monument. The Hopewell earthwork, once a marvel, was flattened to make way for straight roads and square lots. Hundreds of similar mounds survive in Ohio, like those in Chillicothe or Newark. But Circleville's is gone. Around 1860, he used those sketches and residents' memories to make a map, later turning it into a watercolor in 1870. These are our only glimpses of circular Circleville. Imagine a town so unique that visitors came just to see its shape, now reduced to a memory. The loss wasn't just physical. The Hopewell's engineering, possibly tied to their cosmology, was destroyed without study. Caleb Atwater, an early Circleville resident and Ohio's first historian, wrote about these mounds in his 1820 book, Western Antiquities, but even he couldn't save them. The squaring made Circleville richer, square lots sold better, but at what cost? If you found an ancient ruin today, would you preserve it or build over it? Let's see how Circleville thrived after the change. By the 1860s, Circleville was a new town, squared, modern, and booming. The grid layout made it easier to build and sell land, and the town grew fast. Its location near the Scioto River and the Ohio and Erie Canal, plus new railroads, turned it into a hub for agriculture and industry. Circleville led the U.S. in broom corn production, a crop used for brooms, and had meatpacking, canning, and milling businesses. By the late 19th century, it was a prosperous place, with a population climbing to a few thousand. Religious diversity flourished too, with Lutheran, Methodist, and Episcopal churches popping up. Famous residents like Caleb Atwater, who pushed for Ohio's public schools, and Benjamin Hanby, who wrote My Darling Nellie Gray, called it home. The Underground Railroad was active here, with locals like William Hanby helping enslaved people escape to Canada. Circleville's grid made it look like any other town, but its spirit was unique. Still, some folks missed the old circle, calling it a lost treasure. Does your town have a quirky history it gave up? Let's explore one of Circleville's biggest claims to fame today. Fast forward to 1903, and Circleville finds a new way to stand out: the Circleville Pumpkin Show. Started to celebrate the harvest and bring town and country together, it's now one of America's biggest festivals, drawing over 300,000 people every October. It's called the greatest free show on earth, because there's no admission fee. Picture 8 city blocks filled with rides, games, crafts, parades, concerts, and pumpkins. Lots of pumpkins. There are giant pumpkins weighing over a ton, pumpkin pies 6 feet wide, and every pumpkin dish you can imagine, from donuts to chili. Locals get a preview night to beat the crowds. The festival showcases Ohio's farming roots and Circleville's tight-knit community. It's a nod to the town's agricultural past, when it led in broom corn and fed the region. The pumpkin show keeps Circleville's name alive, even if its circular layout is gone. Fun fact, it's the 6th largest festival in the U.S. If you visited, what pumpkin treat would you try first? Let's look at what remains of the old Circleville. Today, Circleville looks like any small American city, with a population of about 14,000 as of 2020. The grid layout is standard, and the Hopewell earthwork is long gone, except for a slightly raised spot at Pickaway and Franklin Streets. But a few hints of the circular past linger. Some buildings, like the Ted Lewis Museum on Main Street, sit on lots shaped like thin pie slices, a nod to the old design. Ted Lewis, a jazz musician born in Circleville, is a local legend, and his museum is a must-see. Other traces are subtler, curved walls in old structures or street names like Circle Lane. The town still calls itself Roundtown sometimes, a proud wink to its past. Historians and locals regret the squaring, with some saying it lost a tourist draw. Imagine if Circleville had kept its circle. Would it be a UNESCO site today? The only visual record, Vidick's watercolor, is a treasure preserved in archives. Visiting Circleville, you can explore its historic district, with 19th century buildings, or check out A.W. Marion State Park for outdoor fun. What do you think? Should Circleville bring back its circular vibe? Let's dive into the modern search for the past. The loss of Circleville's earthwork is a sore spot for archaeologists. Ohio is home to hundreds of Hopewell mounds, protected in places like Hopewell Culture National Historical Park, but Circleville's was destroyed before it could be studied. In the 19th century, people didn't value native sites like today. Many were plowed over for farms or towns. Modern archaeologists wish they could excavate Circleville's site, but it's under streets and buildings. In the 1990s, digs in nearby areas found Hopewell artifacts like pottery and tools, hinting at what Circleville lost. Some wonder if traces of the earthworks base lie under the city. But digging up downtown isn't practical. Ground-penetrating radar could help, but no major projects have targeted Circleville yet. The Ohio History Connection, which preserves other mounds, notes that Circleville's story shows why we protect these sites now. Locals sometimes find arrowheads or small relics in fields, sparking curiosity. Could there be hidden clues under Circleville's streets? If you were an archaeologist, where would you start digging? Let's see how Circleville fits into Ohio's broader history. Circleville's earthwork wasn't alone. Ohio is called the land of the mound builders for a reason. The Hopewell culture left thousands of mounds, from geometric shapes to animal effigies like the Serpent Mound. These sites, built between 200 BCE and 500 CE, were engineering marvels, aligned with stars or solstices, possibly for rituals or marking sacred spaces. Sites like Fort Ancient or the Newark earthworks are UNESCO World Heritage candidates today. Circleville's circle and square design was typical of Hopewell's sacred enclosures, maybe used for ceremonies or gatherings. Caleb Atwater's 1820 book described these mounds, noting Circleville's as a key example. But by then, it was already fading. Why did the Hopewell build these? Some say they mapped the heavens. Others think they were social hubs. Their culture faded by 500 CE, likely from climate shifts or social changes, leaving their works for settlers to find. Circleville's story is a microcosm of Ohio's lost heritage. Imagine if we'd studied it before the bulldozers. What secrets would we know? Let's explore Circleville's modern identity. Today, Circleville is a quiet city of about 14,000, a suburb of Columbus, 25 miles north. It's got a small-town vibe with big history. The Circleville Historic District boasts 19th century architecture, and the Clark May Museum holds native artifacts and local relics. The Ted Lewis Museum honors the jazz star, born in 1890, who performed with his top hat and clarinet. Circleville schools, like Circleville Middle, rank well, and the Pickaway County Library is a community hub. Agriculture still drives the economy, though it's less dominant than in the 1800s. The town's become a bedroom community for Columbus, with farmland giving way to subdivisions. Circleville's crime rate is higher than Ohio's average, but its violent crime is lower than the national average, making it family-friendly. Notable locals include Conchata Ferrell, the actress from 2.5 Men. Let's look at why this matters today. Circleville's story isn't just about a weird town plan, it's about choices. The settlers kept the Hopewell Circle to honor the past, but practicality won out, erasing a cultural treasure. It's a lesson in balancing progress with preservation. Today, we protect sites like Stonehenge or Machu Picchu, but in the 1800s, native heritage was often ignored. Circleville shows what we lose when we prioritize money over history. It also highlights urban planning's power, how a town's shape affects its identity. The regret over squaring Circleville echoes in modern debates about development versus heritage. Plus, the pumpkin show proves small towns can shine with creativity. Circleville's nickname, Round Town, keeps its circular spirit alive, even if the streets don't. Could a town today try a circular design? Maybe with modern tech it'd work better. What do you think? Should we bring back quirky town plans? Let's wrap up with the big mystery still lingering. The biggest question remains. Could we ever rediscover Circleville's lost circle? Archaeologists dream of finding traces under the city, but it's tough. Downtown is paved and digging's expensive. New tech like LiDAR could map buried outlines without breaking ground. Some locals hope for a partial reconstruction, maybe marking the circle's path with plaques or a park. Others say the pumpkin show and historic sites keep the spirit alive. The vintage map, preserved in archives, is a reminder of what was. Circleville's story asks us to think about what we value, progress or heritage. It's a mystery that connects ancient builders to modern dreamers. If you were in charge, would you dig for the past or celebrate the present? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If you loved this deep dive, subscribe for more wild history. Next up, maybe we'll explore the lost city of Cahokia. Fun fact, Circleville's pumpkin show once had a pumpkin weighing 2,150 pounds. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.